Hey everyone, and welcome back to Daily Tuition. In this tutorial, we're going to understand how to make this advanced tic-tac-toe game using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I know you have never built this game before, because in this game, we have different profiles. Instead of X and O's, we use here male and female concept. You choose your character and start the game. You know there are many winning possible combinations. When you win the game, you will see the winner gets green background and you will see the winner in the winner window. You can restart the game by pressing the restart button. And if there is a draw, you will get the draw window and you can play the game again if you want, if you click on the play button again. And if you want to change any character, you can refresh the window and just choose the character and enjoy. I hope you like this tutorial. I have put a lot of effort in this tutorial. So make sure you follow this project. You can follow me from different section of this project by using Git branches. So before taking your too much time, let's get started. So let's get started and see how to make this beautiful game using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'm going to open the Visual Studio Code editor, and inside it, I'm going to open an empty folder. And inside this empty folder, I'm going to create a new folder and name it Tic Tac Toe. I'm going to name this folder Tic Tac Toe. You can specify any name here. And inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file with the name index.html. Create a new folder inside this Tic Tac Toe, which is going to be assets. Inside this asset folder, we're going to put the asset of this game. Just after that, we need style sheet as well to style this index.html. So inside this folder, I'm going to create a file called style.css. And inside this index.html, here, let me create a simple exclamation mark and press enter to create a simple HTML5 snippet. And then I'm going to specify here title, tic-tac-toe. And then just out of this title, here, I'm going to link my style sheet. So I'm going to say here link style.css. Save this file. Just out of that, I'm going to back to the style.css, and here I'm going to add Poppins font. So I'm going to add here import statement and add Poppins font inside this style sheet. So I'm going to open a new tab here and search for Google font. Click on this Google Fonts website, and from here I'm going to select this Poppin font and then select the regular style, regular 400, this one. And then I'm going to use this import statement to import this font inside my project, something like this. Just out of that, just down here, I want to apply this font family to all my descendant elements. So I'm going to say here asterisk descendant, select all the descendant elements and then specify box sizing, border box, and font family Poppins. So I'm going to copy this statement and paste that here. So I'm going to have this Poppins font family to all my descendant element of HTML. Let me save the changes, back to the index.html, and open this file in the live server. But before that, let me add here h1 heading tag and say tic tac toe. Let me save the changes, right click here and say open with live server. This is going to open this file in the live server, and I'm going to have here font family Poppins to this h1 heading tag. Now you can notice this is my finished game. What we are going to do is we're going to first make this select character window of this game and then move to the main window. So we're going to first start the game with this window and then we move the user to the main section of the game. So let me first create this window. So right down here in the body section, instead of this h1 heading tag, here I'm going to add a comment and say start game window. And then I'm going to create here a window with a division tag with a class name start game. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this class. Then I'm going to create here h1 heading tag with the name select characters. And I'm going to specify class to it, to this h1 heading tag, which is text light. Just out of that, here I'm going to create my different profiles. So I'm going to say here profile. Then I'm going to add here img division tag, and inside this I'm going to add images. So as you know, we don't have any images inside this asset folder. So let me put some images inside this folder. So I'm going to put some images inside this asset folder. You can notice Don't worry, you can download all these images from the link provided in the description. Now once we have all the images of this project, so in the source attribute here, I'm going to simply specify // specify the asset folder, and then I'm going to specify my first f1.png image, something like this. Then I'm going to add here a class called id, and then specify here data id, which is going to be x. So we consider this female image as data id x. When I save the changes, you can see we're going to have this female image. So we're going to identify, or you can say specify the unique name for this image. The name of this image is x. Then let me create another image here. So let me copy this image, paste it down here, and I'm going to change this image, and I'm going to specify here m1.png. Then I'm going to leave everything as it is, and then change the data id y. So we consider this image as y. When I save the changes, you can see we have the male image here. We consider the female image as x and the male image as y. We uniquely identify both these images with the data id x and y. Then we can add another set of profile by copying this division tag. Now for example, let's say you want to use another profile. Instead of using this profile, you want to use a different profile. Then you can do that as well. Just copy this division tag, paste it down here, and change these images. Here I'm going to specify f2 and m2. Save the changes, and as you can see, I'm going to have a different profile image. Now as you know, we have all these images inside this asset folder. We are just using it. And now instead of data id x, we pass here data id x2 and data id y2. So we identify or uniquely specify the name for both these images x2 and y2. So if I want to identify this image, I can simply identify it using x2 id, or you can say using x2 data id. Just for that, let me add here a button, a primary button. So just after this profile, right down here, I'm going to add a button with the name start game, and then I'm going to add some class to it. Class is going to be primary btn, and I'm going to specify id here, which is start btn. Save the changes. That's it. So now I have the button as well inside my start window. Now just for that, I want to specify styling to this section. So let's back to the style.css, and here I'm going to specify styling to this section. Now once you've done that, let's style this start game window. So I'm going to open here a style.css file, and here I'm going to create a command, and I'm going to name it starting window, or you can say start game. So I'm going to just first select the start game class, this one, and I'm going to just specify some CSS properties here to center this window. To center these characters vertically and horizontally, we need to use flexbox. So I'm going to say here height 100 viewport height, then specify display flex, justify content center, flex direction column, and align items center. So this is going to center all this content vertically and horizontally. You can notice. Now just for that, I want to style this primary button. So just down here, let me create here a class called primary btn. You can notice we already have this class to this button. So I'm going to select this class, and then I'm going to specify first border none. I'm going to remove the border, then add some background color to it. So I'm going to add here background and add here hex value of the background color, something like this. Just for that, I'm going to specify here padding. Padding is going to be 10 pixel to the top and bottom and 20 pixel to the left and right. Then specify border radius 10 pixel. Color is going to be light color, so I'm going to copy and paste the light color here for the text, and then I'm going to specify here margin top, which is going to be 2 em, and font size 1.5 em. Just out that, I'm going to specify cursor, pointer. That's it. Let me just add background color to this body. So I'm going to select body, and here I'm going to specify background color. So I'm going to say here background color, background, RGB, and I'm going to specify here background color, something like this. As you can see, my first window is nearly ready. Now instead of specifying these hex values, we can create a variables. So at the top, here I'm going to create variables. So I'm going to first select the root and then create different variables here. So let me first create here a variable called text light. Then I'm going to specify the value, which is going to be this color value. I'm going to copy this hex, specify that here. So using this variable, we can access this light value. Then let me create a dark variable. So I'm going to say here text dark and then specify the hex value for the dark variable. Now let me quickly create a few more variables here to save some time. So as you can see, we have some variables in this project. We have text light, text dark, the text BTN color, then we have text yellow and text selected. Just out of that, let me create one more variable, which is cell size. I'm going to specify the static size to the cells. So this is going to be 100 pixel. So we're going to create a variable cell size and specify 100 pixel to it. And now instead of using these hex values in the CSS classes, instead of these hex values, I can simply specify here variable. So I'm going to call here var function and then call here text btn, something like this. And instead of this light color value, this hex value, I can use text light variable. As easy as that. And just after that, I want to create here a global variable, which is text light. So just down here, I'm going to say text light. I'm going to call here color var and call the light text color. So when you specify this text light class to your HTML element, you're going to have this color to the HTML element. You can notice. Now we have this color to this h1 heading tag. That's easy, right? Now, as you can see, my first welcome window is now completely ready. Let's create one more class here. Just down here, I'm going to create one more class, which is global class, text yellow, to specify yellow color to the HTML element, color var text yellow. So now if you want to specify yellow color to the text, you can simply use this class. At the end, I'm going to specify here text center, text align center. So this class is going to allow us to center all the text horizontally. Let me save the changes. Now just for that, I want to add some hover effect on this button and on these images. So to do that, I'm going to first select the primary button and add hover effect on it. So I'm going to add here hover effect, specify background color, which is going to be text yellow. So I'm going to call here my variable and then specify color text dark. Let me save the changes, and now when I hover on this button, you can see I'm going to have this hover effect. Just for that, when I hover on these images, I want cursor. So just down here, I'm going to simply select the start game, then select the profile, then select the img, and inside that we have the image tag. If you open the index.html, you can notice we have the start game, profile, img, and the image tag. I'm going to select all these images and then specify here cursor pointer. So when you hover on these images, you will get the pointer cursor. Just out of that, I'm going to select all these images again like this and add hover effect on it. And when you hover on these images, I want to add the background color. So I'm going to say here background color text yellow. Save the changes, and now when you hover on these images, you can see we have this background color. Our first starting window is now completely ready. We are going to add functionality to this window after a few minutes. But just for now, let's hide this window and create the main board of this game. Now, once we understand how we can create this first starting window of this game, let's take a look at how we can create the main board of this website. You can see in the finished website, we have the starting window where we can select all the characters. So for example, let's say we start from this 4th character. We're going to select that and then click on the start game. Now this is main board. Now when you click on the start game, the first window will disappear and you will get the main board. Here you will play the Tic Tac Toe game. So you can see when we hover on this cell, you will get your selected profile. Now let's create this game board. So I'm going to back to the index.html. Just out of that, just out of this division tag right down here, I'm going to add a new comment and say game window, or you can say game board. And just out of that, inside this board, I'm going to first create a division tag with the class container, then add here a class called board, and to this division tag I'm going to specify ID, which is board, so we can easily access this division tag using this ID. Then I'm going to create here 12 division tags. Inside this board we are going to create 12 division tags, so I'm going to simply use here div dot block. We are going to add a class block to all the 12 division tags, and then we're going to add here asterisk to multiply this div with 12. When I press enter, I'm going to have 12 division tag with block class. You can see I'm going to have 12 division tag with the class block. Just out of that, I'm going to add here an attribute data cell. To add that, I'm going to duplicate this cursor 12 times by pressing Shift Ctrl Alt D. This is going to duplicate this cursor, and then I'm going to add here an attribute called data cell. That's it. So now we can access all this division tag using this data cell attribute. Let me save the changes, and now just out of that, let me back to my Tic Tac Toe game. Now you will not get anything here because we don't have any data inside this game board. So let's back to the style.css and hide this first welcome window. To hide this, here I'm going to add a class called start game dot hide. Now when we have this class to the start game, I'm going to specify display none to the HTML element. When I save the changes, it will not work because we don't have this hide class to the start game. When we add that, so if I scroll up and if I add here hide, save the changes, you can see the welcome window is now disappear. Now let's create the main board. So I'm going to style here the main board. So I'm going to add here a comment and say main game board, something like this. And here I'm going to first select the container. You can see we have the container class. I'm going to center this board. So instead of creating a new container and specifying the same CSS properties like this, I'm going to simply pass here a comma and say dot container. So this will center and specify all the CSS property to this container class. Just out of that, scroll down. Here I'm going to first select the board. You can see we have this board class. You can access this board using this class or using this ID. That's upon you. Let's use ID here. Inside this board, we have grid system. If I open the finished website, you can notice we have 3-column grid layout, 3 columns and 3 rows. I'm going to use CSS grid system to create this board. So I'm going to back to my style sheet, and here I'm going to say display grid template columns, repeat 3 of auto. I'm going to repeat 3 columns with auto height and width. Just out of that, I'm going to specify here background color, which is going to be text light. So let me specify here text light color, something like this. And then I'm going to specify row gap 3 pixel. At the end, I'm going to specify column gap 3 pixel. That's it. We have this small dot here using these CSS properties. Just out of that, let me select the block. So I'm going to select the block class of the cell. You can notice we have this block class to all these cells. I'm going to select all the cells, then specify width, which is going to be 100 pixel. We already have a variable called cell size 100 pixel. I'm going to use that here. So I'm going to say here cell size, which is going to be 100 pixel, and height is going to be cell size, means 100 pixel. Just out of that, I'm going to specify background color. Background color is going to be the dark color of the background. So I'm going to copy this background color RGB and then specify to this cell. So when you specify the background color to the cell, you can see you're going to have the result something like this. Now you can see this is a board of 3 by 4, means 3 columns and 4 rows. If you want to increase the rows or columns, you can change that using this grid template columns. So if I specify here, I want 4 columns. When I save the changes, you can see we have 4 columns and 3 rows. You can create your game and change this grid layout according to your need. That's upon you. In the finished website, we have 3 by 3 board. So I'm going to just get rid of these 3 division tags from this div, something like this. Let me save the changes, back to my website, and instead of 4, here I'm going to add 3. Let me save this, and now you can see I'm going to have my board with 3 columns and 3 rows. Just out of that, what I want, when I hover on these blocks, I want my images. You can see when I hover on these blocks, or you can say when I hover on these cells, I have my cell image. So I want this effect to these blocks. To do that, I'm going to back to the style.css, and here I'm going to add that effect. But first, let me add here some CSS properties to this block. Here I'm going to add display, flex, justify content center, align items, center, and cursor pointer. Save this. So this is going to center all the content of this block. So whatever you have inside this block is going to center vertically and horizontally inside this block. Just for that, what I want to create hover effect on this cells. So to do that, I'm going to simply specify here board, this board class, this one, and then I'm going to specify .x, and inside this I'm going to specify background and specify my image. As you can see, we have all these images inside this asset folder. Instead of specifying the absolute path here, let me create variable inside this root right here. I'm going to say here images. Let me create here variable. So let me create here female 1. So I'm going to create first female variable with the URL, and then specify here ./asset folder and specify f1.png. Do the same for the second image. I'm going to say here female 2 URL in the single code, specify ./asset folder f2.png. I'm going to do the same for the male as well, something like this. Create a variable male and specify the URL. That's it. Save these changes, scroll down, and here I'm going to use my image, which is female 1, and then I'm going to specify no repeat. Save the changes. You're not going to get anything here because we don't have X class to the board. So let me add that. So here to the board, I'm going to add a class called X. Save the changes, back to the style.css, and now we have this background property to this board. Now you're not going to get anything because this background image is now applied to the board. Instead of adding this background image to the board, we need to add that to the cell. So let's add here block class. So this is going to add this image to this cell. So to see this image, we need to add here hover effect. When we hover on the block, I want to see this image. Let me save the changes. And now you can see when I hover on the block, I'm going to see this image. You can see to this image, we have some light background color. I want to change this background color of this image. So just out of this image, I'm going to add here a value with var text yellow. So this is going to add a background color to this image. Let me save this. And now you can see we have yellow color to this image background. Now just for that we need to add opacity as well, because this is the hover effect. So just for that I'm going to add here opacity 0.4, something like this. Because this is just a suggestion, we're going to add opacity 0.4. So now whenever you hover on this cell, you can see you will have this image. Now as I said earlier, when we have X to the board, I want to add this hover effect to all these cells. Now what I want, when I have X or Y to the cell, or you can say to this division tag, I want to add different hover effect to these cells. What I'm going to do is, just out of this division tag right down here, I'm going to add here a comment and say X is equal to female and Y is equal to male. Now just for that, just down here I'm going to say dot block dot X. So if we have X class to the block, or you can say to the cell, I'm going to simply add background color to the cell. So I'm going to say here background, then I'm going to add here female image. So I'm going to add here var, I'm going to add this female one, then add no repeat and add background size cover, something like this. Save the changes. I'm not going to get anything because you can see we don't have X or Y to this division tag. Now for example, if I add here X, save the changes, now you can see we have the image here. If I remove this X from the first div and add that to this division tag, I'm going to have the image to the center div. You can notice. Now when I hover on the cell, right now you can see we have the hover effect. I don't want to add any hover effect when the cell is already filled with image. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to back to the style.css. Here I'm going to add a condition and say not in the bracket, just specify .x and pass colon here, something like this. Save the changes. Now when you hover on this image, you can see you're not going to get anything. So this hover effect is now disabled for the already filled cells. Let me do the same for the Y as well. Here I'm going to say colon not dot Y. Save the changes. And this is also going to happen with the Y class. For example, if I copy this class, paste it just down here, and instead of X, if I add here Y, and I'm going to change this female 1 to female 2, save the changes, and instead of X, if I add here Y, save the changes. Now we have different image, and now when I hover on it, you can see we don't have the hover effect. If I remove this condition from this CSS, you can see when I hover on this cell, I'm going to have the hover effect. So when the cell is already filled with the image, I don't want to add any hover effect. So I'm going to add that condition here using not function. Now just for that, let me just create few more classes here of X and Y's. So as you can see here, X is equal to female and Y is equal to male. So you can see to the X we specify female because Y is equal to male. So instead of female here, I'm going to add male 1, the first image of the male, this one. Just for that, let's create two more classes just down here. So when we have X and Y's, you can see at the starting of the game, we have two profiles, X, Y, X2 and Y2. Let's create all these classes in the style sheet. So we already have X and Y. Let me copy this, X again, specify that here, and this time this became X2. Then change this female to female 2. Copy this Y, paste it down here. This became Y2 and male became, save this. And now if you change this class to Y2, something like this, you will get different image here. You can see. But now what I want to change this background color of this cell. What I'm going to do is, here I'm going to add a text yellow. So I'm going to add here var, text yellow. Do the same for this X2 as well. And to the male, I'm going to add a different color. So I'm going to copy hex color and specify that here. Something like this. Save the changes. Now you can see we have different color to the background of these cells. If I change this to Y, you can see we have different color to the male and female. If you add these classes to these blocks, you are going to get different images. Something like this. So we are going to do this using JavaScript. We're going to add these X and Y's using JavaScript when we click on these cells. That's super easy, right? Now what I want to add this condition to the X2 and to the Y2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, paste it just down here, and instead of X, here I'm going to add X2 and Y2. This time the female goes female 2, everything goes the same. Just after that, I'm going to opposite this condition. So I'm going to copy this, paste it just down here. This time I'm going to say if the block have Y and X, then we need to add here male. And then I'm going to add here my background color, something like this. Copy this, paste it down here. This became Y2 and X2. At the end, don't forget to change this background male to. Save this. Now at the end, when we have image inside the cell, we don't allow the user to add another image in the same cell. So we are going to change this cursor pointer. So at the top here, I'm going to simply first select the block dot X and block dot Y, and I'm going to say here cursor not allowed. If you have X and Y to the block, I'm going to say not allow cursor to that cell. You can see when I hover on this image, I'm going to have this not cursor allow effect. Let me do the same for X2 as well. Here I'm going to say block dot X2 and block dot Y2. Save the changes. That's it. Now you can see to add different images inside the board, you can simply add X and Y's inside these blocks. That's super easy, right? Next, I'm going to show you how you can create draw and winner window. Now, once we have the main board of this game, let's create a draw window and the winner window. So just after this container, just after this div, right down here, I'm going to create a new command and say draw window. And here I'm going to first create a draw class, draw MSG, and then inside it, I'm going to create a division tag with the class draw and create h1 heading tag. And here I'm going to say draw. Save the changes. When I save the changes, you can see we have the draw just down here. Just out of that, I'm going to specify some classes to this h1 heading tag, which is going to be text center and text yellow. After that, just out of this div right down here, I'm going to add a button with the ID draw btn. Along with that, let me add a class to it, which is primary btn. When I scroll down, you can see we have this button here. Let me specify some text to it, which is play again. Save the changes, and now you can see we have this button and the draw message. Let me center this. So I'm going to back to the style.css, scroll down. Here I'm going to create a new comment and say draw and winner MSG window. I'm going to style this window after this comment. So I'm going to simply going to first select this draw MSG and then specify position fix. Top is going to be 0, left is going to be 0, bottom is also going to be 0, and right is also going to be 0. Just after that, I'm going to simply specify display flex, then I'm going to specify flex direction, column, justify content center, and align items center. As you can see, we vertically and horizontally center this window. Just for that, we need to add background color to this window. So I'm going to add here background color, which is going to be RGB alpha color. So to the red, I'm going to specify 49 for the green, 49 for the blue, 49, and for this alpha color we pass a 0.938. Let me save this. You can see we have this black color to this background. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this starting window. If I get rid of this height, right from here, save the changes, you can scroll up and down with this first starting window. Let me comment this, save the changes. You can see you can scroll down and scroll up with this starting window. What I'm going to do is, instead of passing this starting window right here, I'm going to get rid of this start game right from here, from the top, and pass that to this draw window, just like this. Means I'm going to add a position fix to this start game window. Let me save this, and now you can see we have fixed position to the starting window. Let me add here hide and uncomment this draw window. Now that's it for the draw window. Let's create winner window. I'm going to add here a comment and say winner window. So I'm going to create a division tag with the class winner window, winner MSG, and inside this I'm going to add h1 heading tag with the class winner. Along with that, let me add a class here which is going to be text center and text yellow. Just out of that, let me save the changes. When I save it, you can see we have this winner here. Just down here, you can notice we have this winner. Let me comment this draw window. So when I scroll down, you can see we have this winner. After that, I'm going to add here a div winner and add a button here with the ID restart btn. Along with that, let me add a class here, primary btn. To this button, I'm going to say restart. Save this. We have this restart button here. Just out of that, I'm going to back to my style.css and I'm going to add here dot winner MSG, something like this. That's super easy, right? To align this starting window, to align this draw window, and to align this winner window at the center of the document. Now what I want to create a class which we can use to hide these windows, to hide this draw window and to hide this winner window. So to do that, instead of commenting these HTML statements, I can simply add here a class called show and hide. So for example, I'm going to back to the style.css and here I'm going to create a class called draw msg dot show and dot winner msg dot show, and I'm going to specify display flex here. Now at the top, let me first select the draw msg and winner msg and then specify display none. Whenever I have this show class to these windows, for example, if I want to display this winner window, I can simply add here a class called show. So this will just show the winner window. And if I add this show class to this draw window, I'm going to have this draw window. Now once we have the starting window, the main board of this game, the draw window and the welcome window, Let's move and add tic-tac-toe functionality to this HTML using JavaScript. Now, once we understand how we can create draw window, winner window, the main board of the game, and the starting window, let's get started and see how we can add tic-tac-toe functionality in this project using JavaScript. This X is going to initialize the first turn of the user. We are going to add user turns using this X variable. So we first initialize this board and then specify the turns of the user. Now we allow X to add their own position. Now when we don't have anything inside this board, you're not going to get anything when you hover on this grid layout, or you can say when you hover on the cell. Now what you have to do is, you have to back to the style.css. We copy and paste all the code right down here, but we did not change this X value. Now let's change it. Here I'm going to change X2, this became Y, and this became Y2. Let me save this. Back to the index.html. If I add here X, we're going to have the user turn X. You can see. If I add here X2, we're going to have the user turn X2. You can see we have different image here. If I add Y here, we initialize the first turn of the user, which is Y. And if I add Y2 here, we're going to have here Y2 turn. So we're basically going to initialize the first turn of the user with this class. Now let's do the same thing with JavaScript. So let's create a new file inside the project. Here I'm going to create a new file with the name index.js, and here I'm going to create two variables, two constant variable. Constant x class is equal to x, and constant y class is equal to y. So x is a value for female and y is a value for male. Or you can remember this x as O's and y as x's. Now once we have these values, let me add a functionality to my first window, means to this first starting window. So let's get rid of this hide right from here. Save these changes. In my finished website, when I reload, you can see I can select any image with the cursor, and when I click on the user profile, I'm going to have the green background as well as the border to the selected profile. And when I click on the start game, I'm going to get my selected profile. You can see. Now let's create this functionality in this project. So I'm going to create a function for that. So I'm going to create a new function for that. So let's create a comment here, and I'm going to say here use to set selected user on start game screen. I'm going to create a function here with the name profile. Inside this, I'm going to first get the selected profile and display all the selected profiles. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to first get the ID of the image. We have the class to this image, which is ID. I'm going to select all these image tags and get the ID of it. So in the index.html, here I'm going to say let selected profile is equal to document.querySelectorAll, and inside this I'm going to simply select .img.id. So I'm going to select this img.id, or you can just call here start game at the front of this query selector, something like this. So we first select the start game img and then select id. So this statement is going to return all the img tag to this variable. Make sure you specify selector all instead of selector. Just out of that, just down here, you need to iterate over this selected profiles. So you need to say here selected profile dot for each, and here I'm going to say img and then call a callback function here, something like this. And if I say here console.log img, if I call a profile function here, Let me save the changes, and don't forget to include this file. Don't forget to link this file to your index.html. Here before the closing body, I'm going to specify script and then specify // index.js, something like this. Back to the index.js, save the changes, and let me inspect this window. Now you can see we have 4 nodes. We have 4 different nodes with different IDs. Means inside this first node, we have all my images. So now I can access all these images using this array. And now what I want to add event listener to all these images using JavaScript. When I save the changes, you can see I'm going to have all the images as a response. So this is going to return all the images in the console. Now what I want to add event listener to all these images. So when we click on the image, I want to get the image ID and specify that image ID to the board right here. So for example, if I want to access the image ID, then I can simply specify here e.target.dataset.id. Using this statement, I can access the ID of the image. I need to just write this statement inside the onClick event. So let me get rid of this, and I'm going to say here img.add event listener, add a click event listener here, and then call here e and call a callback function. Now let's get the ID of the image using console.log e.target.dataset.id. Let me save the changes. Now whenever I click on the image, I can get that ID in the console. If I click on this image, you can see this is going to return y2, this return x, this return x2, and this return y. So this is x, this is y, this is x2, and this is y2. Let me refresh and show you the result. When I click on the first image, it is x, the second is y, this is x2, and this is y2. So I'm just going to access this data ID property of this image using this statement. Now what you have to do is you have to store this in a variable. So I'm going to say here let target is equal to e.target.dataset.id. Now once we get the selected image, let me add this green background and this border to the image when we click on it. So to do that, I'm going to simply add here document.querySelector, and in this parenthesis I'm going to say here bracket data ID is equal to, and here I'm going to add a single quote, and I'm going to add here template string, something like this, and call my target. So I'm just simply going to select my target using this selector, then add here dot class list dot add, and in the parenthesis you need to specify the class you want to add when you click on the image, which is going to be selected. So I'm going to add a selected class when we click on the image. Now as you know, we don't have this class, so let's create it. So in the style.css, right down here, I'm going to create this class. So let's first select the start game, then select the profile. Inside that we have img, and inside that we have descendant img tag, and I'm going to add a class called selected, and when we have this class to the image, I'm going to specify background color, text selected, variable, then specify border 2 pixel solid, and then specify var here with the text light color, and then at the end I'm going to specify border radius 20 pixel. Save the changes, and now when I click on this image, you can see we have the background color. But now you can notice if I click on all these images, it's going to add this selected class to all this list of images. So to remove this, I'm going to create a new function for that. So in the index.html, right down here, let's create a new function, remove img selection. Pass here parameter img, and then here you need to just simply specify bracket dot for each dot call img, call a callback function with element, and then here you need to say el dot class list dot remove, and remove the selected class from all the element. So I'm going to call a for loop, and this for loop is going to return list of images, and I'm going to remove the selected class from all the images using this for loop. So at the top right here, I can simply call here remove img selection, and here I'm going to say selected profile, something like this. Save the changes, and now when I click on the image, oops, something went wrong. Let me save this. Yeah, we need to write this statement before this document dot query selector at the top right here. We need to first remove all the selection from these images and then add the selected class. Let me save this. Now if I click on the image, you can see I can simply select any profile from this list. Now what we are going to do is, instead of adding all the code of this complete game in the same file, we're going to separate it in multiple files, so we can follow the separation of concern principle of programming. So instead of creating only this index.html file, let's create a new module inside this project. So inside this tic-tac-toe game, create a new folder with the name module, and inside this module I'm going to create different files. So I'm going to first create here a file called helper.js. Inside this file I'm going to add all the helper functions. Just after that, I'm going to create a new file again for variables.js. As the name suggests, inside this file I'm going to add all the variables, and just after that I'm going to create another file with win.js. Inside this file I'm going to add the winning combinations of the game. Now let's move to the helper.js and grab this code from the index.js and just paste that. Just cut this code from here and paste that inside helper.js file right here, something like this. Just after that, save all the changes, back to the variables, and let me create here variables. So to create variables, I'm going to simply say here let game is equal to, and in the object I'm going to create different variables. This object can allows us to change the variable value. So I'm going to simply say here x class is equal to x and y class is equal to y. Means I'm going to just initialize both these variables right here, and if I want to access this variable in different files, I need to pass here export statement, something like this. Now I can use this game variable in my other files. Just after that, you need to back to your index.html and you need to inform to the index.html that we are using modules. So the script type is going to be module. Save the changes, back to the index.js, and at the top right up here I can simply specify import statement to import different files. So I'm going to say here import game from module variables. So now using this game variable I can access this x class and this y class variable. Let me copy this command, paste that in the variables, something like this for the reference, and I'm going to get rid of this x and y. Save the changes. You're not going to get anything. This will return an error message. This will return variables is not there because we don't have any extension here. So make sure you pass here extension to the file. Save this. As you can see, you will not get any error. Just after that, back to the helper.js, grab this profile and paste that in the index.html, something like this. As you know, we don't have this profile function inside index.html. So I'm going to have that error here in the project. So to solve this problem, we need to just add here export statement, export function profile, export this function, save this file, back to the index.js, and here I'm going to say import. I want to import the profile from module helper.js. That's it. Now you can see I have no error here. And now when I click on the image, it will work completely fine. You can notice. So we are just shifting all the code in the different files, so we can maintain it easily. Now, just out of that, let me get rid of this console.log, and instead of getting the value of this document inside this function, I can create this variable inside this variable.js. Right here, I can simply create a variable selected profile, and then I can say here document.querySelector img.id. That's it. Save this file, back to the helper.js, get rid of this selected profile, and if you want to access this list of selected profile, you need to just simply import the game at the top. You need to simply say here import game from variables .js. Now using this variable, using this game variable, you can access your selected profile and pass that to this for each. So instead of selected profile, you can simply say here game dot selected profile and then save the changes. That's super easy, right? So now you are getting the value from this variable file and pass that to this function. Now, as you know, we have x and y inside this x class and y class. Means if the user select this first or this second image, oops, I think I misspelled something, selected profile. Yeah, we need to add here game selected profile here as well. Now, just out of that, let me save the changes. Now here, you need to notice when the user click and select the first image, this image return x and the second image return y. We already initialize this variable with x and y's. So if the user select this first, I'm going to get this x class and specify this x to this board. Something like this. If the user click on the second image, we're going to initialize this board with y. So the first turn of the user is y. What if the user select this third and this fourth image? In that case, we need to add x2 and xy to this board. To do that, you can notice we need to swap these values. We need to change x to x2 and y to y2. So to do that, I'm going to use this profile. So just out of this document.query, right down here, I'm going to swap values if user select second profile. So just down here, I'm going to say if the target means this value is equal to x2. As you know, inside this target variable, we have the id value. So if the target value is equal to x2 or the target value is equal to y2, then I'm going to change the game variable game.x class is equal to x2 and game.y class is equal to y2. That's it. We are just going to change the value of these variables. Just out of that, we need to set the turns of the user. So to set the turn, I'm going to simply set here set turns. I'm going to create a new variable inside this variable file. I'm going to create a variable here, turn, and I'm going to initialize this with undefined. Right now the value is going to be undefined. Just out of that, I'm going to back to the helper.js, and here I'm going to set the turn of the user. So to set the turn, I'm going to say game dot turn is equal to, if the target is equal to y, or if the target is equal to y2, then return true or return false. As simple as that. If the target have y or y2, return true or return false. We are just going to return boolean value from this turn variable. This variable is going to allow us to set turns of the user. We're going to set the user turn using this variable. Save this file, back to the index.js, save this file as well. Next, we're going to move to the main board and add all the functionality of the Tic Tac Toe game. Now, just out of that, once we understand how we can select this user, let's click on the start button and start the game. So let's add this functionality inside our project. So now once we understand how we can select the user, when we click on the start button, we need to start the game. To do that, I'm going to back to the variables, and here I'm going to create two different variables. So let me first create here block elements, and then I'm going to say here document dot query selector all, and then I'm going to select all the data cell. So inside this block elements, I'm going to have all these data cells. Just out of that, I'm going to create another variable here, which is going to be board element. To select this, I'm going to say document dot get element by ID, and I'm going to say here board. As you know, we have board ID to this division tag, so I'm going to get that using board ID. Let me save this. Now you can access all these variables using game object. So let's create a new comment here. This is for start game. So I'm going to say here function start game. I'm going to name this function start game, and now I'm going to call this start game when we click on this start game button. So let's add here some buttons. So I'm going to say here game buttons. So I'm going to create a variable for this button. So I'm going to create a variable inside this variable file. Let me create here a variable start btn, and then I'm going to specify here document dot get element by ID. In the parentheses, I'm going to say start btn. So now you can see we have the start button with the ID start btn. I'm going to access this button using this ID start btn, and then I'm going to back to the index.js, and at the top here I'm going to say game dot start btn dot add event listener. I'm going to create on click event on this start button. So I'm going to say here click. When we click on this button, I want to call start game. That's it. I want to call this function when we click on this button. And then here I'm going to say console.log and say game started. Save the changes, and now when I click on this button, you can see I'm going to have here a message game started. Now what we need, I want to hide this window when we click on the game started button. So to do that, let me get rid of this console.log. So we need to first select this start game window. So we need to back to the variables. We need to add here start window document dot query selector, and inside it I'm going to say start game. So using this start game class, I can access the start window. Save the changes, back to the index.js, and here I'm going to simply say game dot start window dot class list dot add. I'm going to add a class to this window, which is height. As you know, when we add this class to this window will completely disappear from the game. So let me save the changes, and now when I select my profile and click on the start game, you can see this window is now completely hide, and then we can play the tic-tac-toe game. Next, what I want to set the user turn. Let me reload my browser, and for example, if I select this fourth image, when I click on the start button, I want that fourth image inside this cell. We need to set the user turns as well as the hover effects. So let me first set the hover effect. For example, if the user select this female, when the user click on the start game, we need to show the selected image as a hover effect right here in the cell. To do that, let's create a new function. So in the helper.js, I'm going to create a new function here. Just down here, I'm going to create a new function, and I'm going to say here function is used to set hover effect to the cell. So this function is used to set the hover effect to the cell. So I'm going to say here function set hover effect. Make sure you pass export statement so we can use this function in the other files. Let me add here a comment as well. This function is used to remove selected class. So inside this function, I'm going to first simply say if game dot turn. I'm going to access this variable turn if it is true. If it is true, then execute this console.log with true value, else execute this console.log with false value. That's it. Save the changes, back to the index.js, and here we need to call this set hover effect inside this function. But as you know, we need to import this function. So just out of this profile, we need to say here set hover effect. We need to import this function from the helper file and then use it. Let me save this, select the profile and click on the start button. When we click on it, if you inspect, if I refresh the browser, if I click on the first image, click on the start, I'm going to get false. If I refresh, select the second profile, select the male and click on the start, I'm going to get true. If I select the female, click on the start, I'm going to get false. And if I select the second male and click on the start, I'm going to get true. This is because in the profile function, you can see we have y or y2 in the target. I'm going to set true and false to this turn variable. So we already set the value to this turn variable inside profile. So that is why we get these values on the board. Now once we understand, if we select the female, we get false. If we select the male, we get true. Let's use this information and create hover effect. So when the user select female, it's return false. And when the user select male, it's return true. So for example, if the user select male, then I'm going to say here game dot board element dot class list dot add, and then I'm going to add here a class game dot y class, something like this. So I'm going to add this class when the user select male. As you know, y is for male and x is for female. So if the user select male, I'm going to add this y class, means this y, to this board right here. So let me get rid of this y right from here, save the changes, back to my helper.js, and I'm going to copy the same statement, paste it here, and this time instead of y class, we can add here x class, something like this. And just out of that, let me save the changes. And now if I click on this second male profile, click on the start button, when I hover on this cell, you can see we have the second profile as a hover effect. Let me reload the browser, select the second male, start the game. You can see we have the first male profile. Let me reload the browser, select this female, the second female, start the game. Here you can see we have the turn of the second female. Now what we need to do is we need to remove these classes before we add them. So for example, if we already have these classes to the board element, we need to remove it. So at the top, I'm going to say game dot board element dot class list dot remove, and in the parentheses we are going to say game dot x class. Copy the statement, paste that here, and here I'm going to say y class. So we are going to just remove x and y class from the board element, and then with the condition we are going to add them. Save the changes, back to the index.js, save this file as well, and now you can see you can select any of this profile. For example, if I select this first profile, so we have the first female turn. If the user select this last male profile, you can see we have the second male profile hover effect. Let me show you how you can add the user in the cell. Just like here. So let's understand how we can add the image in the cell and get the game result. Now, once you understand how you can add hover effect on the main board of the game, let me show you how this works. You can notice we have set hover effect to create hover effect on the main board. For example, let me open an inspect tool, and you can just notice here in the container we have the board class. Right now we don't have any class with the board, but when I select any user, for example if I select this last y2 user and click on the start game, you can see now the board has y2 class. This means the y2 has the first chance to select this board. So you can notice we have the y2 image here as a hover effect. Let me reload the browser. And what if the user didn't select any image? For example, let's say if the user directly click on the start button, then what happened? In that case, we are actually going to initialize the board with a default value, which is x. The game is going to select the first default value. You can see here. Now let's take a look at how we can put this value in the cell so we can fill this cell with this hover value. So let's see how to do it. So what we need to do is we need to first get all these division tags and then add onClick event on it. So when we click on these divs, we need to add this hover image in that grid. To do that, just back to the index.js, just out of this hover effect, right down here, let me create a command, and I'm going to say here iterate over sales and make click event, or you can say add click event. I'm going to just say here game, the main object, and then I'm going to specify dot block elements. I'm going to just select this block elements. You can see this variable has data cell, means this is going to return all the division tags, this one. I'm going to select that and then say here dot for each, call here parentheses and call a callback function, something like this. Let me just put here console.log and print the cell. Let me save the changes, right click here, inspect it and open the console. Now when I click on the start game, you can see I'm going to have all the division tags as a response. Now I want to add onClick event on these division tags. So I'm going to add here sale, add event listener, add click event on these sales, and I'm going to add a callback function here. So instead of creating a callback function inside this function, I'm going to just add here handle click function. I'm going to just put here the reference of the function. So let me create here handler function for that. So I'm going to say here handler on click function of the sale. So let me create this handle click function right down here. I'm going to say function handle click. Now let me just put here console.log and print click. Let me save this. Back to the project and let me click on this start game. Now when I click inside the sale, I'm going to get this click event. This will fire this callback function and I'm going to have here click message. Now what if I click on the same sale again? I'm going to have the same click event. But what I want, when the user select the sale, I don't allow user to select the same sale again. So to solve this problem, we can simply add here a comma, and in the object, we can simply pass here a property called once true. So this will just allows us to add this handle click event only once. Let me save the changes and show you the result. If I click start game, when I click on the sale, and when I try to click on the same sale again, I'm not going to get anything. I can click on other sales, but if I try to click on the same sale again, you will not get anything. The handle click event will not fire because we just have only one chance to click in the sale. Now just for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the current sale in the variable when we click on it. So when we click on the sale, let me create a variable here. Constant sale is equal to, and then I'm going to pass here a parameter e, and then I'm going to say here e dot target. So when we click on the sale, let me print that sale. Save the changes. And now if I click inside the sale, you can see I'm going to have that block inside the console. You can see. Now just out of that, I want to get the current user turn. For example, if there is a male turn or the female turn, I want to get that information. To get that, I have here a variable called turn. In this variable, I have that information. Let me show you. If I say here console.log, if I print game.turn, then if I just select the user, click on start game, and if I select the sale, we have true as a response. Means, as I said earlier, true is equal to male and false is equal to female. So once we understand true is equal to male, I can just simply say here game.turn, and then call here turn any if and else statement, and then I'm going to say here game.y class, return y class, or return game.x class. So if the turn is equal to true, return y class or return x class. And I'm going to store this in a variable. So I'm going to say here constant current class. So in the current class, I can get the current user. So I'm going to say here console.log, and if I print here current class, then if I select the user, for example this one, if I click in the sale, you can see we have the current user x2. So this will return x2 as a response. Now just for that, I want to mark this sale with this current user. So if I have this x2, I want to mark this sale when the user click on any of these sales. To do that, I'm going to create a new function for that. So let me just back to the helper.js, and here just down, I'm going to create a new function. So this function is used to add current user in the sale. So I'm going to just say here export function mark sale, and inside this function I'm going to pass two parameters, sale and current class. Here inside this function, I'm simply going to say sale dot class list dot add. Means I'm going to just add this current class inside the sale. So I'm going to say here current class. As simple as that. That's it. This is a very simple function, right? Let me save the changes. And now what I'm going to do is, when I call this mark cell, I'm going to specify the current cell as a first parameter and the current class as a second parameter. When you click on the cell, you will get the current cell, and then to that cell, we're going to add the current class. For example, if I back index.html, and if I add here a class called x2, let me save the changes, then you can notice we have the current user in the third cell. So we just have to add a class to the division tag when we click inside the cell. So to do that, I'm using this function. So let me just back to the index.js. I'm using this mark cell. So let me copy it, and we are importing this. So let me just add that here at the top, mark cell, and just on here, instead of console.log, I'm going to simply specify mark cell. And in the parentheses, as you know, we have two parameters, the cell and the current class. As you know, this is going to return the current cell. When we click on the cell, this variable is going to return the current cell. So I'm going to say here cell, and inside this current class, I'm going to get the current class of the user. So I'm going to pass here current class. That's it. Let me save the changes. Select the user, click start game, and now when I click inside the cell, you can see now I can fill the cell with the current user. That's easy, right? Now what I want, when I click inside the cell, I want to swap the turns. This is the female turn. Now I want to swap to the male turn. So we need to swap these values. So let me show you how to do it. So to do that, we need to create a new function. So inside the helper.js, right down here, I'm going to create a function, and I'm going to say here, use this function to swap user turns. So I'm going to say here, export function swap turns, and then I'm going to pass here parameter turn, and then I'm going to say here return turn is equal to exclamation mark and pass here turn, something like this. So we just have to return the opposite of the current turn value. Means, for example, if I pass here true, then we are just going to return false from this function, because we are just returning the opposite value of the turn variable. If you have false here inside this turn, we're going to return true from this function. So this is how we can swap the values. So let me save these changes, copy these swap turns at the top. As you know, we need to add here swap turns because we have this in a separate file. And just out of this mark cell, I'm going to add here swap turns, and in the parentheses, we need to pass here turn value. As you know, inside this game turn, we have the turn value. So let me pass here game turn. Let me save the changes. Just out of that, once you swap the values, you need to return that value to the turn variable. So we can actually change the value of the turn variable. So I'm going to just call here game dot turn is equal to. So now we are basically getting the value from the turn variable, swap the value, and return to the same turn variable. That's it. Let me save these changes, and now let me check the game. When I click on the start game, I'm going to have the female turn. When I click in the cell, I'm going to have the female value. And now when I click in the cell, right now I have the male value. You can see this statement is going to swap the values, and now I have the male value. Now if I try to click in the cell, then I'm going to have the female value, and if I click here again, I'm going to have the male value. But now what I want to change this hover effect as well. So I'm going to copy this set hover effect function right from the start game and paste that just down here, something like this. Save the changes, and now let me start the game again. Now let's start with the male. I'm going to click on the male profile, start the game, and now let me click on the elements and open the board. You can see we don't have any classes to the cells. When I click inside the cell, you can see right now I have the male value, and now this cell has a class called y2. And now you can see when I hover on the cell, we have the female hover image in the cell. For example, if I click inside the cell, we have the female value. You can see we have the x2 here to this div. If I click in the cell, I have the male value. If I click in the cell, we have the female value, we have the male value, and we have the female value here. So this is how we can add X and O's inside the grid. Now at the end, what we need to do is we need to return the result of the game. Maybe you will get the winner or you will get the draw match. Now, once you understand how you can add the user in the cell, let me show you how you can announce the winner. So to announce the user, we need to create winning combination. If we have 3 females in the same vertical row, that would be the win. If we have 3 female or male in the horizontal row, then that would be the win. So these are the winning combination, right? So let's create this winning combination. So I'm going to open here a file called win.js, which we already created inside the module. Here I'm going to create the winning combination of the game. So let's create here a variable called constant win combinations is equal to, and this would be an array. And inside this array, we have another array of winning combinations. So now, for example, let's say we have 3 x's in the top row. Or you can say we have 3 female in the top row. Then that would be the win. So we consider this first cell as 0. So we pass here 0. If we have female in the second cell, so here I'm going to add here 1. And if I have female in the third cell, I'm going to have here 2. So now this would be the win. 0, 1, 2. If we have 3 x's or y's on the top cell, then that would be the win. So this is going to check the horizontal win. Let's suppose we have a male in the middle row. We have 3 males in the middle row. So let's first get the values of the cell. As you know, we start the cell with 0, 1, 2, and this is a third cell. So let's see here 3. So if we have male in the third, fourth, and fifth cell, then that would be the win. So I'm going to say here 3, 4, and 5. So if we have male in the 3, 4, 5 cell, then that would be the win. Let's do the same for the bottom row. So let's count the cell 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we have male or female in the 6, 7, and 8 cell, then that would be the win. So I'm going to say here 6, 7, and 8. Now just for that, if we have male or female in the first row vertically, then that also be the win. So for example, if we have here 3 males in the first row, then this is also a win. So to announce this is also a win, I'm going to create here an array, and then I'm going to say here 0, the first cell, then I'm going to say here 3, the third cell, and then I'm going to specify the value of this last cell, which is 6. So this is the vertical combination. So I'm going to just add here another array for the middle row. So for the middle row, I'm going to say 1, 4, and 7. And at the end, I'm going to say 2, means this last cell, 2, 5, and 8. So I'm going to say 2, 5, and 8. Now just for that, there is a diagonal check as well. For example, if we have 3 female or male in these cells diagonally, means for example, if we have female here, and female here, then that would also be the win. Or if we have male, female, male, and male, so this also be the win. So let's add this combination as well. So I'm going to add here comma, and in the array I'm going to pass 0, 4, and 8. 0, 4, and 8. This is the diagonal check. And just for that, we need to check this 2, 4, and 8 as well. So I'm going to say here 2, 4, and 8. That's it. Now these are the possible winning combination of this game. Now let's use this combination and find out the winner. Right down here, I'm going to call here a comment and say check for winner. Just down here, I'm going to create a function. So let me just call here export statement. So I'm going to say here export function check win. And inside this function, I'm going to pass two parameters. First is the current class, means the current user. And second is the block elements, means this variable block element. And inside this function, I'm going to simply first call a method sum. The sum method tests whether at least one element in the array passes the test implemented by the provided function. So I'm just going to call here my winning combination first, then call here dot sum, and in the parenthesis I'm going to say combination, call here callback function, something like this. And inside this, let me just call here console.log combinations, just like this. Let me save the changes. Don't forget to export this variable as well because we are using it in the other file. Export. Let me save this. Back to the index.js. At the top, let me import this file as well. So I'm going to say here import. In the curly braces, we are importing this check win function from modules win.js. Make sure you have extension to all the JavaScript files. Just for that, let me copy this check wins and I'm going to put that right here, something like this. Let me add here a comment check winner. And as you know, to the check win, we have two parameters, current class and block elements. So let me just pass that. So as you know, we have the current class variable. So I'm going to copy this variable and pass that here. And then I'm going to pass here block element. As you know, inside these variables, we have these block elements. So let me pass that. So I'm going to call here game dot block elements, something like this. That's it. Let me save this. Back to the wins. And let me just save this file as well. And let me select the user. Click on the start game. Open the console. Now when you click in the cell, you will get the winning combination as a response. Now what we have to do is we have to check whether we have 3 X's or Y's or we have any of these combination in the grid. So to do that, I'm going to create here a variable to store values. So let me create here an array. Let win match is equal to an array, something like this. And instead of console.log, here I'm going to say win match dot push. I'm going to push data inside this array and say here combination dot every index. And then I'm going to call here a callback function, something like this. And let me just return index here and show you the result first. Let me return index. So this is going to push this index inside this variable. So let me print this variable just down here. Console.log win match. Save this. Select the user. Start the game. Oops, I think I misspelled something. Let me just check. Yeah, right here. I just forgot to add here a comma. Let me save this. Select the user. Start the game. And click inside the cell. Now you can see we have false and true values inside an array. So inside this, we have true and false values. Now if I print console.log combination, then you can see I'm going to have all the combinations in the console, and then I have here false and true values. Now what I have to do is, now inside this function, we have to check that we have this combination in the cell. So to do that, instead of this console.logs, instead of returning the index, I'm going to say block elements, this second parameter, block elements of index. I'm going to pass this index dot class list dot contains. Now, as you know, the every method tests whether all elements in the array passes the test implemented by the provided function. It returns a boolean value. So here I'm going to say if the block elements of index dot class list contains the current class, then I'm going to return that in this variable. Let me save this, select the user, start the game. You can see I'm going to have here all the false value. If I click in the second cell, I'm going to have the same result. Let me click on the third cell, the same result, the same result. But if I click here, you can see we have true value inside this variable, because now the fourth combination is matching with this criteria, this one. We have 3 female in the first row, 0, 3 and 6. You can see. So this is what we call a win. And if we have win inside this array, then we can easily find the user. So let's see how to find the user. So once we have the winner, let's return it. Instead of console.log, I'm going to say here return win match or return null if we have nothing in this variable. That's it with this win file. So I'm going to close this because we are not using this file anymore. I'm going to close this file and I'm going to back to the index.js. Right here we have win check. Now this is going to return an array, as you know. So if I just see here let flag is equal to, and if I console.log this flag, then I'm going to have that true and false array in this flag variable. Let me show you. If I select the user, if I play the game, you can see we have the true value. Once we have this value, I can filter this value using filter method. So what we are going to do is, I'm going to simply call here a function to this check win. Once we get this flag, once we get this array from this check win, I'm going to say here dot filter. I'm going to call a function called filter with these values with this array, and then I'm going to say here win and index. I'm going to get 2 parameters from this array and call here a callback function. So once this function is going to return the array, I'm going to filter that with win and index. So let me first show you the win and the index value. So let me just console.log here, index value. Let me comment this, save this, select the user, start the game. Now as you can see, this win variable have false values, true and false, and this index have 0, 1, 2, 3, the index value. What I have to do is, I have to check whether we have true inside this win variable. If we have true inside this win variable, then that would be the win. So if I simply get rid of these values, and if I say here if win, then execute this if statement. If we have true inside this win variable, then execute this if statement. So I'm going to see here console.log and print win. Now let me save this, start the game. Let me just add here some winning combinations. Now when I click here, you can see we have the winner. This is going to return this if statement, and this is the winning combination. As you know, this is the diagonal win. Now we know that inside this win we have true. That is why this condition became true. Now what do we have inside this index? Let me show you. If I print here console.log index, let me save this and restart the game again. Then you can see we have 3 inside this index. Now what is the meaning of this 3 here? The 3 is the value, the index value of the winning combination. So if you open the win.js, then you can notice 0, 1, 2, and 3. You will get this third array value as a response. So this 3 is going to return the winning combination. As you can see, on the 0 index, we have male. On the 3rd index, we have male. On the 6th index, we have male. Let me check this again. If I play this game again, now it's returned 6. Means the game is matched with the 6th winning combination. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one. 0, 4, and 8. So now once you have your winning combination, you can find out the winner. Anything you have on the 0, 4, or 8, that would be the winner. You can simply find out that. To do that, just back to the index.js, get rid of this console.log, and here you can simply set the winner. So let me just create a variable inside this variable file. Let me create here a variable called winner. I'm going to specify null value here, and then in the index file here, I'm going to say game.winner is equal to, and now we need winning combination in this file. So I'm going to just copy and add here and import the winning combination variable here, something like this. And I'm going to say here win combination of index. If I say here console.log, in the game.winner variable, I'm going to have the winner combination. Save the changes, select the user, and play the game again. You can see we have 0, 3, 6 as a response. So now if you want to grab the winner, you can just simply get these values. Anything you have inside 0, 3, and 6 index, that would be the winner. So instead of this win combination, I'm going to say here game dot block elements. As you know, inside these block elements, I'm going to have these divs. I'm going to grab this, and here inside this array, I'm going to pass win combination index. And as you know, this returns an array. Let me get only one element, or you can say one index from this array. So let me call here another bracket and say here 0. You can call here 1 as well, or 2. But don't move more than that. If you add here 3 or 4, that will return an error. Because as you know, we have only 3 index in this array. So you can just pass here 0, 1, 2. So let me pass here 0. So this is going to return the current div to this winner. Let me save the changes. Let me play the game again. As you can see, we have the division tag of x2. Means the x2 is the winner of this game. Next, I'm going to show you how you can print this user on the winning window and how you can find the draw match. Now, once we get the winner, let me show you what do we have inside this flag variable. Let me get rid of this console. Save the changes. You can see I'm not going to get anything inside this array because we use here filter method. So let's return something from this check win. So just out of this game winner, here I'm going to return win is not equal to false. If it is not equal to false, then that would be the win. So I'm going to return here win is not equal to false. Save the changes. Now let's do the same thing. As you can see, I'm going to have true as a response inside an array. Now what I'm going to do is, if there is a win, I'm going to execute the if statement, otherwise execute the else statement. So just down here, I'm going to call here a comment and say check for win or draw. So I'm going to say here if flag.length, if it is greater than 0, then that would be the win. So I'm going to say here console.log win, and if the array is less than 0 or equal to 0, I'm going to execute the else statement. So I'm going to say here console.log draw, something like this. Let me save this, start the game. As you can see, I'm going to have the win and the draws. I'm going to have the draw 8 times and win only 1 time. Don't worry about this console message. We'll look at that later. Now what I want to do is I want to add green background to the winner image. To do that, inside this if statement, here I'm going to say comment, and I'm going to add here a comment and say add green background to the winner. So I'm going to say here win combination of index dot map. I'm going to call here a map method of JavaScript, and then call here the callback function. And inside this callback function, I'm going to say game dot block elements of I dot class list dot add. So this is actually going to return all the index. As you know, this statement is going to return the winning combination. Means if we have the diagonal win, then it will return 0 and then return all the index values. I'm going to get that values in the I variable. Let me show you. If I say here console.log, save the changes, you can see I'm going to have 0, 3 and 6. These are the index of this grid. So I'm going to get this value inside this I, and I'm going to pass that to the block element. So using this block element, we're going to get the current div of the I index, and then I'm going to add here a class called win. I'm going to add a class to the div which is win, and let me create this class in the style.css. So let me create here a class dot win, and then I'm going to specify here background color, which is going to be text selected, the green color. And then I'm going to add here important keyword. Make sure you add here important, because we are overriding the previous value. Let me save this, close this file, save this file, and now if I click here, you can see I'm going to have the green background to the winner index. Now just for that, I want to show the winning window when we have the winner. To do that, we need to create a new function called endgame. As you know, we have a class called show to the draw and to the winner window. You can see here, if I add this show class to the draw or win window, if I say here show, then you can see I'm going to have here the winning window. So I'm going to just add this class using the endgame function. So let me just back to the helper.js right down here. I'm going to add here a command and say here end game function, and this function is going to use to display the winner or the draw match result. So I'm going to say here export function end game. I'm going to pass some parameters here, draw win element. So I'm going to say here win EL, and then I'm going to say here draw EL. So these are the elements. We're going to get this element from the variables. Don't worry about that. Inside this function, I'm going to say if, here I'm going to say exclamation mark and say here draw, then execute the if or execute the else statement. And inside this, I'm going to simply say win element dot class list dot add, and what we have to do is we have to add the show class. And if there is a draw, I'm going to say here draw element. Let me just add here a small character, draw element dot class list dot add, and what we have to add is show class. That's it. This is a very simple function of the end game. Let me save this, back to the index.js, and instead of this console.log, here I'm going to simply add game function, this one. So let me just import that first. At the top here we have this function in the helper file. So I'm gonna grab that and import that here, and then I'm gonna put that right here, and game, something like this. Here I'm gonna pass false value, this false value. If you have false here, then execute this if statement, otherwise execute this else statement. So I'm gonna just pass here false, and then I'm gonna create a variable here. Inside these variables, let me create a variable for win element. So I'm gonna say here document dot query selector, and I'm going to select the winning window, this one. So I'm just going to simply call winner MSG right here, and you have to do the same thing for the draw element. So I'm going to say here draw element document dot query selector, and you have to grab this class draw MSG, something like this. So now once we have the variables, I can use it. So I'm going to just back to the index.js. Here I can pass game, and then I'm going to pass here dot win element and game dot draw element. That's it. Let me save this, and now if I select the user and win the game, you can see I'm going to have here the winner window. But now what I want inside the winner window, I want to display the winner. So to do that, as you know, right here inside this game winner, I have the division tag of the winner. I can get this div and put that inside this winner window right here. So inside this winner div, I'm going to put the division tag of the winner. So let me copy this winner and create a variable here first. Inside this file, I'm going to call here winner img document dot query selector, and then I'm going to select winner msg and then call here winner. So I'm going to first select this winner msg class and then select the winner class. So this is going to return this division tag. And just out of that, inside this index.html right here, just out of this end game right down here, I'm simply going to say game. Make sure to save this file. I'm going to say here game dot winner img dot append. I'm going to append means add a div of game dot winner. So I'm going to add this variable, means this div, inside winner div. If you check back in the video, we have the division tag inside this variable. So I'm going to grab that division tag and put that inside this winning img variable. Now what you have to do is, this statement is going to grab this div and put that inside this winner window. Instead of doing that, we need to clone this div. So just after this statement, make sure you add dot clone node, and you have to pass here true. So this is not going to append the cell in the winner window. Instead, it's going to clone that div and append that in the winner window. Save this file. Let me just check the winner window. As you can see, I'm going to have the winner. Now next, when the user click on the restart, I want to restart the game. Let's see how to do it. Now what I want, when the user click on the restart button, I want to restart the game. To do that, just simply first grab the restart button. As you know, we have ID restart btn to this button. I'm going to grab this ID. Here I'm going to create a new variable and I'm going to name it restart btn, and I'm going to say here document dot get element by ID, and I'm going to pass this ID here. So now once I have access to the button, I can simply add on click event on it. So at the top right here, I'm going to say game dot restart btn dot add event listener, and I'm going to add here click event and I'm going to just call the start game function again. So this start game function is going to restart the game. But what we have to do is we have to remove all the previous values from this game. Means we have to hide this winner window as well as remove the sales values. We have to remove this x's and x and y's from the sales when we click on the restart button. As you know, the restart button is simply going to call the start game function. So all we have to do is we have to add everything inside this start game function. So as I said, we have to first remove this winner window. I'm going to say game dot win element dot class list dot remove, and what we have to remove is the show class, which we have to this winner div, this one, right? As you know, we iterate over the sales and add on click event. Using this function, I can remove the sale values. So I'm going to just say here sale dot class list dot remove all the game dot x values and remove sale dot class list dot remove all the y values. So if we have x and y's to the sale, I'm going to remove that first. So let me save this. Oops, I think I misspelled something. Cannot read the property, undefined, reading, add event listener. I think I misspelled something here. Restart btn. Yeah, add it here, semicolon. Let me save this. Back to the index.js. And now if I win, I'm going to have the winner window. But now when I click on the restart, it's going to restart the game. But now I also need to remove this green background. So to remove this inside the sales, as you can see inside these elements, if you inspect this container, then you can see you have a win class to these blocks. You have to just remove this class from the sale. So you have to say here sale dot class list dot remove win. That's it. When you save the changes, you can see you can restart and play the game again. Now just for that, if I play this game again and if I have the winner, then you can see I'm going to have two winners here. This is because we have this previous winner and this is the current winner. I have to remove this previous winner from this window. To do that, I'm just simply going to add here a statement inside the start game right down here. I'm going to add here a statement called game dot win img. I'm going to get this element, this winner img dot children dot length. I'm going to just check that if we have any descendant element of this winning img, means here I'm going to check that if we have any descendant element to this winner div, then execute this if statement or execute the else statement. So in the if statement, if we have any descendant element of the div, I'm simply going to say game dot winner img dot remove child. I'm going to remove all the childs. So I'm going to say here game dot winner. And if we don't have anything in the else statement, I'm going to return no. That's it. Let me save this and let me play this game. Restart it. As you can see, I'm just going to get the current winner. That's super easy, right? Now let's understand how to get the draw window. As you can see, when we win, I can get the winner window. But now let's understand how we can get the draw window when the match is draw. Now sometimes there is a draw in the game. To handle this situation, we have to add a function draw game. So let's add a function inside the helper function right down here. Let me add here a function So this function is used to check the draw result. So I'm going to say here export function is draw, and I'm going to call here flag. When we call this is draw, I'm going to pass this simple flag variable, this one, because as you know, inside this flag variable we have the winner, right? Now I'm going to pass that. So here inside this is draw, I'm going to first check if the flag dot length, if this flag dot length, if this return true, then that would be the win. So I'm going to just simply say here if the flag dot length, if it is true, then just return from this function, just exit from this function. And if it is not, then I'm going to say here game dot block elements dot every, and in this every I'm going to call here cell, something like this, and then I'm going to call here console.log cell. Let me save this and call this is draw in the index.js right here. So to call this, we need to first add that at the top right here. We need to add is draw right down here. Inside this console.log, I'm going to put is draw and pass here flag parameter, flag. That's it. Now let me show you the result. When I start the game, I'm going to get the error message. This is because the game.blockelements.every is not a function. Every is not a function. Let me show you what do we have inside this game elements. If I get rid of this statement, and if I say here console.log game block elements, then you can see then we have here nodes. What we need to do is we need to destructure it. So we need to add here bracket and spread operator, something like this. If I do this, then that is going to add every method to this block elements. So I'm going to just undo everything, and I'm going to grab this, add here brackets, something like this, and call here triple dot, means the spread operator. Now let me save this. As you can see, I'm going to get the current sale division tag. Now just out of that, here I'm going to say sale dot class list dot contains, if it is contains game dot x class, or if the sale dot class list dot contains game dot y class, then return true or false. So I'm just checking whether all the sales are filled with the values. If all the sales are filled with X and O's, and if the flag returns 0, then that would be the raw. As you know, if the flag returns 0, that means there is no winner. And if all the sales are filled with the image with the X and Y's, or you can say with the male and female, then that would be the draw. I'm just going to check that here. And at the end, I'm going to simply say here return, something like this. I'm just going to return the boolean value of this condition. Save this, play my game. Oops, I think I misspelled something. Yeah, right here I just forgot to return value from this inner callback function. So I just have to add here return statement. So this will just return value to this return statement, and this is going to return value to this function. Let me save this, open the index file, save this file, and let me play the game again. You can see we have false values. Now as you can see, when I fill all the sales, it's going to return true. That means this would be the draw match. No one is the winner of this match. So once you know that this function is going to return true, when there is a draw, we can grab this, and in the else statement here I can say if is draw flag, then execute this if statement, right? And inside this I'm simply going to say end game true. As you know, we pass here false value to the winner, so here we pass false, and I'm going to say here game dot win element and game dot draw element, something like this. That's it. Let me save the changes, and now let me draw the match. As you can see, I'm going to have the draw window. Now just out of that, let me add a play button functionality. So I'm going to back to the variables. I'm going to create here a variable draw btn document dot get element by id, and in this parenthesis, as you know, we have here draw btn id of this draw msg window. I'm going to grab this id and paste that here. Just out of that, I'm going to back to the index.js, scroll up. I'm going to say here game dot draw btn dot add event listener. I'm going to call here click event and call the start game function, this one. So when we click on the play again, I want to start the game again. That's it. Oops, I think I forgot something here. Draw btn, yeah, I just want to save this file as well. That's it. So now if we draw the game, and when you click on the play again, I have to remove this window as well. So to do that, just down here, as you can see, you remove the show window inside this start game. You have to add here another statement, which is game dot draw element dot class list dot remove. And what you have to remove is, you have to remove a class called show from this draw window, which is going to be show, something like this. So if you draw the game, and when you click on the play button again, you can easily play the game again. That's super easy, right? And at the end, for safety purpose, let me remove this handle click every time when we run the start game. So just down here, I can simply say here cell dot remove event listener click handle click. So whenever I call this start game, I'm going to remove handle click from every cell and then add it again. So this is just for safety purpose. Save all the files and let me play the game. Let me select the second male character, this one, start the game. So you can see when I hover on the cell, I can see my male character. Let me start with the center cell right from here. On the opposite side, we have the female character. You can see. Let me click here. Let me win this game. That's it. We successfully win this game. So now if I click on the restart, I can play this game again. But this time, we start with the female character. We swap the value, as you know. So now we have the female character and the opposite user have the male character. You can see that would be the win as well. Let me restart the game again, and this time let me draw the game. As you can see, we draw the game and I'm gonna have the draw window here. If I want, I can play this game again by clicking on this play again, or if I want to select my profile, I can refresh this browser and select this profile. This time I'm going to choose this female and start the game. So now I have this female profile. So now I hope you understand how to build advanced tic-tac-toe game using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. If you find anything useful, don't forget to press the like button. Share this video with your friends. That is all for now. I will see you in the next one with a new video.